estrangement is not about going back to the way things were before. In fact, that's a very bad idea. Things broke for a reason. If we ignore that and try and go back to the way things were functioning before, they're either just going to break again or they are going to stay broken forever. True and sustainable healing is about becoming people who show up differently, who do things differently, who are willing to change and are willing to be different people in order to create a safe and a healthy space for everyone. There is so much rhetoric going on out there about estrangement. Honestly, some of it just shocks me. Let's just say there's a lot of people out there who enjoy being the victim and are very, very committed to staying wounded and to staying angry. Having lived this from all sides, this is what I know for sure. Healing from estrangement isn't about who did what or who didn't do what or finding someone to blame. Nor is it about waiting for the other side to go first or to come to their senses. Real healing, real connection, it requires real change, not just from one or two people, but from the entire family. I know this not from research or theory, but because I've lived it. In my own family, one side is slowly, awkwardly, but truly and genuinely, honestly rebuilding. Why? Because everyone involved, every person in the family is doing their part to do the work that is needed and to make it happen. We had the most wonderful experience recently in which we had all of our kids together for the first time in 4 years at a family event. And it's been even longer than 4 years since we've all actually had fun together. It's been a long, hard, and often tumultuous road to get there. But we got there. We did it, and it is 100% worth anything we had to do to get there. Unfortunately, the other side of my family, and also my husband's side of the family as well, they're still stuck. They're still blaming. They're still focused on being right and who did what. And it's very clear now that they're more interested in sticking to their story and to being right and to making everybody else believe that story than they are in having an actual, authentic, real relationship with real people. And guess what? Not a darn thing has changed there. Hasn't changed in years. And honestly, at this point, I'm not sure I ever expect it to change. Estrangement has become an epidemic. I think it's even more than that. I think it's truly a crisis because it's not just an ordinary relationship problem. Estrangement represents the breakdown of the most fundamental human relationship, the family. It's especially problematic when it's between parents and children, which is the breakdown of the primary attachment relationship and is the foundation on which all other relationships are built. It's literally the severing of the foundational ties that define who we are. And yet, a recent study from Cornell University found that 1 in 4 people are estranged from a family member, and most of them are parents or adult children. But here's the part that not very many people are talking about. It's not just a parent-child problem. It's not just a parent problem. It's not just a child problem. It is a whole family problem because it's a whole family system problem. You see, we learn how to relate to each other in our families, especially the family that we grew up in. And in many families, patterns get passed down, pain gets covered up, and dysfunction becomes normal to the point that we don't know any different and may not even realize how damaging or dysfunctional things have gotten. Most families have unspoken rules about who's allowed to feel what, who's allowed to say what, how conflict is handled, and who gets to be heard. They're not all consciously put out there, but they do control every interaction, every belief, every expectation, and every relationship. When we hit the point of estrangement, it's often a breaking point. After many, many years, maybe decades of things being ignored, swept under the rug, doing things the old way or how we've always done them. And it usually comes on the heels of someone trying unsuccessfully to resolve things because they're fighting against a silent system that's like a giant Goliath standing in the background. Except They didn't know it was there. As humans, we're hardwired to connect to each other, and we're hardwired to connect to our families. So if there's any sort of attachment in that relationship, it's pretty natural to want to rebuild it. The problem is, if we don't heal things first, and we go by that old adage, just forgive and forget, we end up jumping right back in where things will eventually break again, because none of the underlying issues have been addressed. I rode that cycle way more times than I can count, and I always ended up getting hurt, even worse, the next time around. Here's what works instead. Number one is to clean up your side of the street. You can't control what others do. You can't control how they feel. You can't control whether they come back or whether they go away. But you can reflect honestly on your own patterns, responses, and blind spots. We're all human. We're imperfect. Mistakes are inevitable, and everyone makes them. So this isn't about blame. It's about growth. A couple of key questions you might want to ask yourself is, how do I handle conflict? How do I handle it with my spouse? How have I handled it with my kids? How was it handled when I was growing up? Am I doing the same thing? Am I doing it better? Am I doing it worse? And what do my kids think of this? Another great one to ask is, what did I do to model emotional safety? Do I even know what that means? Do I feel it myself? How about, where was I silent when I should have spoken up? Or where was I loud when I should have been listening? And if I were to put myself in my estranged child's shoes, how would they feel about these things? The next thing we can do is to commit to doing our own inner work first. Stop rehashing the what ifs and the if onlys. They're not going to get you anywhere. And don't wait for someone else to do their work before you do yours. Because honestly, you never know when that other person is going to be ready. And if you're not ready at the same time they are, you're going to miss that opportunity to reconnect, and they're going to go further away. So you want to start reclaiming your own peace and do it as quick as you can. Healing family relationships really does start with healing ourselves and healing the relationship we have with ourselves first. That includes learning how to sit with uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable situations, and maybe things that we didn't get quite right. And we need to do that without drowning ourselves into shame or defensiveness or beating ourselves up. And we also need to stop trying to fix it, especially alone. I promise there wasn't just one thing or one person that broke the relationship. There were a lot of contributing factors, and they probably happened over many, many years. It's not just one magical moment, one apology, or even one's sincere desires that are going to fix it. Real connection requires mutual effort. It requires a shift on everyone's part, including those people who are out on the fringes and may or may not even think they have any part of it and may not realize the roles they played or what they can do and need to do in order to help things heal. Regardless of what's going on or how things play out, it requires a commitment from everyone to make the relationship work. It's about wanting that person back in your life and wanting the family back together more than you want to be right and more than you want to avoid having to do the work or to face the ugly things that might be lurking beneath the surface. I'll be honest, it requires a lot of forgiveness, letting go, and adjusting expectations. It's truly about choosing to love a person exactly as they are, with whatever choices they've made, and have a relationship with a perfectly imperfect person instead of having it flow perfectly. Now, most likely that is going to also mean staying within boundaries. We don't throw those away. They're not there to hurt or exclude anyone. In fact, they're a very important and essential part of things being able to work again, because they exist to keep everyone safe. And the lack of them is what likely led to all the problems. No, one person changing themselves doesn't heal the system, but one person can make a difference. One person can lead the way, and that person might as well be you. One person can speak up, or stop nitpicking or name calling. One person can refuse to let the dysfunction continue or to let all the narratives be true. And one person can stand up and choose to do things differently. Yes, it is true that trauma and toxic patterns are contagious. They're easily passed from person to person and generation to generation. But so is healing. One person choosing to do the work can inspire others to do it too. It doesn't happen overnight. Doesn't happen because magic pixie dust was thrown on it. It happens because of patience, persistence, and a belief that it matters. If you're ready to stop spiraling into patterns of guilt and blame and shame, and you're ready to start reclaiming your peace, download my free guide that's called Reclaiming Your Peace After Estrangement. You can find that link in the description below. Let me be clear though, reconciliation is not the goal. Emotional safety, growth, and peace are the goal. Reconciliation may be a byproduct of that, as we have wonderfully experienced. Or it might not be. Or it might not be yet. But one thing is for sure, if you make your healing dependent on what somebody else's response is or with what they do, you're going to stay stuck and miserable. There's a lot of people out there who think if I say the right thing, if I do the right thing, if I show them how sorry I am, they'll come back. But it doesn't always work that way. And reconciliation isn't a reward for good behavior. It's a mutual decision that's rooted in real transformation and safety, particularly emotional safety. They've got to be able to trust that they're not going to get hurt again. And both sides have to be able to take a look at their wounds, their patterns, their defenses, and choose to do better. And they do it because they care enough about the other person to be uncomfortable with themselves. Healing from estrangement and rebuilding trust is absolutely possible, but only if you're willing to stop carrying the load by yourself, stop trying to circumvent what needs to be done in order for things to actually happen and truly heal, and start rebuilding your own peace. So watch that next video over here and let's keep walking this road together.